Alright guys, so welcome to the channel. I wanted to talk today a little bit about 4x5 cameras and especially the use of Instax Backs on these 4x5 cameras. Now 4x5 cameras are used by large format photographers as a bit of a portable kit. So in this case you can see I have a Tachihara 4x5. I'm not sure whether it's clear over here, and I've been shooting this for a few years, not much admittedly. It's a bit difficult to do 4x5 because it's hard to preview your images. It does look beautiful, whatever negatives I get, but one of the challenges that I wanted to address was how we can use instant film with these cameras. So traditionally these have been shot using the 4x5 peel aparts or just the regular peel apart films. So you can just slot it into this over here and it tends to work pretty well. But the problem is that the film is now really difficult to come by. There are also other kinds of film bags where you can actually attach an entire almost Polaroid camera onto its back just by replacing this part and slotting in an adapted motorized 4x Polaroid processor. Those are extremely expensive, so I never even considered buying them. So what I've been thinking about was how we can make an Instax Wide back for this camera. Now this project was started maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But at that point in time, there weren't many options. For that, I know now that Lomography actually has released a what do you call that, Instax Wide back for the camera. 4x5 cameras using graph lock system. I looked at it recently, but I don't think it fits my camera without making an adapter, so I didn't bother. But anyway, when I started this project, that product was not available. So what I ended up doing was this. I firstly really thank Lomography for developing all these camera parts. So this is a Instax Wide manual instant back for one of their Belair cameras. So what this is basically supposed to go onto a roll film camera, and then you can use it to process Polaroids as well. But at that point in time when I started this project, this was really the only film back that was not connected directly to the camera. Now, any Instax camera will have very similar parts, including the processors, the rollers, etc., and also of course the film holder. And the problem is that they usually are built into plastic casings that make it very difficult to modify, but this one comes in a pretty complete package that I really like. And also it is hand crank, which is always a big plus for me. I don't like to use things that have batteries as much as possible. So what I did then was to take the Belair adapter and basically just took the whole thing apart. You can see here that I have taken away most of the front housing, and some parts of it were removed relatively cleanly, like the top, but other parts of it were really difficult to remove. So I ended up kind of just hacking it, using just a Dremel. The roughness you see though is not from the hacking. This is actually a bit of silicone from a leftover previous attempt at this, the first version of this you could call it. So, and then I left these two little pegs over here as for registration, which you'll see later. So when I did this the last time, I 3D printed this part. I designed it in CAD SolidWorks and basically tested it out a few times. It took me about 5 tries to get this right. Printing, it took a really long time to print. Each one takes almost half a day to print, and the biggest problem was that older printers were much smaller and do not have the space to print out the entire piece, so you needed to print them in parts. So what I ended up doing was to use ABS to print this, I think, in 3 parts. 1, 2 that I joined together using these pegs, right? These little pegs, and then I glued them together, and then after that I have a third piece to create the protrusion. Now this protrusion is very important because when you're shooting 4x5 camera, you actually need to use duck slides, right? And especially when to remove the back, you need to make sure that there is a duck slide available so that you can prevent accidental exposure of your film pack. So this is what I did. It's almost impossible to print a slot so small using 3D printing because you can see the duck slide itself is extremely thin, right? And it will just drop out if the hole is too big. So what I ended up doing was to print it in two parts, combine them together. It's much easier to make a small recessed bit and then take another flat piece to create that little chamber. This is something I learned from work actually. And then basically I just use black silicone to kind of seal up all the edges, get it pretty decent. Now after this is done, you can then put the rest of the Instax Back on like that, and you can see it's a pretty neat little package, right? Now I made sure that there was enough clearance so that I can still turn my crank. Okay. Now the problem with this was that the 3D printed part was not up to scratch, right? You can see over here, right? It's really rough finishing, right? There's also a lot of warping in a part. Not sure whether you can see, but the entire piece actually just kind of wobbles a little bit. And also there were a lot of these pieces that did not fit perfectly. I ended up having to break them or accidentally breaking them, partly because of the curvature of the piece. So it places a lot of stress on these joints. Now these joints actually go onto the, as I mentioned earlier, the camera, right up. You can see that there are these little tabs, right? These tabs basically go onto the camera, and you'll get locked in by this sliding, I don't know what they're called, holders. Okay, like that. Now this piece does not sit in well, so recently I had the chance to redesign the part a bit better. Now this is the redesign part. Now some improvements include better clearances, making sure that the piece actually fits perfectly. Previously the pieces didn't work very well, right? For example, the two registration holes, they were actually in the wrong position. So what I ended up doing was to use a soldering iron to make the holes really big so that it will actually, the two pegs will actually fit in. But this time around, I just remeasured everything, make sure everything is good, and reprinted it. So it's much better now. You can see also the tabs are much cleaner, and the piece is very flat, almost perfect. And here you can also see how we make the actually the duck slide holder. You can see a very slightly shallow recessed region over here. And what you can do then is to put the duck slide in, you slice it out like that, right? And then you have your second piece, right? You can then mount on using screws into these screw holes. And once you mount them in, I mount them in, I'll seal them up with black silicone, and then this whole thing will mate directly to the Instax Back like this. You can just show you how you go on first. The protrusion will go in. Next, I'm gonna try to line up the pegs over here. But be careful because I did break them recently by accident. So I'm going really slowly for this part, making sure that it's all lined up perfectly before I push it in. So it's pretty perfect fit. And last but not least, put the duck slide in, like so. Right, it's of course not held in place properly yet, so it shifts around. When it's all done up, it will not move around like that. And this whole piece can then be mounted onto my camera. Right, like this. Take it off. Put the Belair adapter. Directly on like this. And still a bit of finagling to do, but we're done. Alright. Perfect. Alright. That's all for now. Once I assemble everything, I will upload another video to show how it works. And for now, thank you for watching. Bye bye.